the festivals of India. So Mark Twain very famously said, India has 2 million gods and worships them all. So, and that's true. And each day is probably a festival in some part of the country somewhere. The Hindu pantheon and their various achievements are celebrated with much pomp and splendor throughout the year. From victorious homecomings to thanksgiving for a good harvest and seeking blessings for prosperity, the Hindu festivals have always been a celebration of life. Today we have with us a very diverse panel of 6 experts who would be talking about 5 most popular festivals that visitors to India would love to witness, enjoy, and also could participate in. We will be discussing Holi, which is the festival of colors, mostly in North India, especially in Braj near Mathura. We will also be discussing Diwali, the festival of lights, which is celebrated throughout India. Durga Puja, which is famous in Kolkata. Ganesh Chaturthi, which is famous from Mumbai. And Mysore Dussehra. As the name suggests, this is special in Mysore. So the panelists we have today are, as I said, from different backgrounds and very, very diverse. We have Navneet Raman from Banaras, and he will be talking about Holi. We have Abhishek Hajela, and he will be talking about a very specific Holi in Mathura and Vrindavan. We have Durga Singh ji from Jaipur. He will be talking about Diwali. Then there is Mr. Rainan Irani from Mysore, and he will be talking about the special Mysore Dussehra. There is Shubhamay Banerjee from Kolkata. He is going to speak about Durga Puja. And last but not the least, we have Harshvardhan Tanwar from Mumbai, who is going to speak about Ganesh Chaturthi. Now, each one of them has an experience and a huge portfolio. I will tell you more about them as I invite them to speak. Let's start with origins of the festivals. That is my first topic. And I'm going to invite Navneet Raman to speak first on the Holi festival. And Navneet is the founder of Kirti Gallery and Artist Residency, and where in Banaras, and where he's been the convener of the Intax local chapter from 2006 to 2009. He's also a member of ICO MOS India and the co-founder of the Banaras Cultural Foundation. Navneet works with documenting and preserving the cultural traditions of North India. Navneet, I invite you to speak on Holi and specifically Holi of Banaras. So would you tell our audience today about the mythological story of the festival?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Navneet, very much.
Okay, good. So the very appropriately, you've put the right image. You know, the festival of Holi goes back to the Vishnu Puran and the celebration of from the 4th incarnation of Vishnu, which is the Narsingha avatar. And it's the story of Prahlad and Hiranyakashyap's sister Holika, where Hiranyakashyap asked his sister to burn his son in the fire because she had this special blessing that she would not get burnt. And that's what this image that you can see on your screen is all about. And then over the incarnations of Vishnu, we come to the incarnation of Krishna, where the whole notion of colors and the drenching of love and prosperity and fertility and that aspect comes in. So that comes in many incarnations later. And we will talk about the Holi in Banaras and the Holi in Vrindavan. I think it's more the Holi in Vrindavan that's a topic we should be talking about. The Holi in Banaras is nothing very special. It has its small aspects, very specific finesses, but as far as the origin is concerned, it was basically the survival of this great devotee of Vishnu, Prahlad, from the holy fire. So that's when every year in the Holi starts in the evening, in the night, with the lighting of this fire. And the next day onwards, it becomes a spring carnival. And it's celebration of the harvest, because in North India, that's the time of harvest. The springs just started, and it becomes a spring carnival. And of course, there is a whole very large 2-week-long celebration in the Braj area. In Banaras, the festival is celebrated for a much shorter period. It starts from what is called an Ekadashi. If you know the Hindu calendar year, the 11th day of the Hindu calendar year, called Rang Bhari Ekadashi, on which they offer color to Vishwanath. And from that day, officially, you are allowed to throw colors on anyone and no one can complain. And it ends on midday of the day of the playing of the color of Holi. That's sort of giving you a, we can talk about it in detail when you ask other questions, but sort of giving you a little background.
Sure, sure. It's interesting that this is so popular just pan North India, and not really that much celebrated in the south, for down Vindhyas and below. How come it's such a North Indian thing and not South Indian?
See, I think personally, because the whole larger celebration as we celebrate it now in, I would say, in the modern memory of mankind of India, is more a fertility and a harvest. It's related to the harvest.
Right.
And that's the time that North India, because of the temperatures, the winters have just got over. So our harvest happens then. Whereas in South India, agricultural harvests have already happened. You know, they work on a different agricultural cycle.
Yes.
So India being this agrarian society, it's predominantly what we see Holi now has taken on this shape, because it's a festival of bounty. It's a festival of coming of fresh crops and the celebration of that harvest. And that's why, because of the season, I think it's to do more with North India.
Yeah.
It's picked up now in the South as well. You know?
Right. Right. Although Hampi has some old ancient edicts and sculptures where they're showing celebration of Holi, which I thought was very, very unique, because in the South, it's not so huge. And maybe in the olden times, it was there, and slowly it kind of changed.
You see, like I was mentioning, the celebration of Holi, apart from the photograph that you have put as the screen, which is the Holika Dahan, which is the lighting of the fire. The second part of that celebration, which is the color and the festivities and the music around it. And, you know, like it's one festival that's affected the Indian culture through music, through literature, through paintings, through all this in a very immense way. And that comes in with the whole worshipping of Krishna.
Yeah.
And that Krishna worshipping, of course, was pan-India. It was in the south as well as in the north. And I think that's where this festivity of the Holi went down south to Vijayanagaram.
Right. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Navneet, for giving us that insight. May I please invite Durga Singh ji, who is the scion of the erstwhile aristocratic family of Mandava, and he's a man of many talents. He's an excellent narrator, a gracious host, and a gentleman farmer. Also a passionate conservator of the folk and tribal heritage of Rajputana. He's combined his education in agriculture and signature panache to offer guests a taste of traditional Rajasthani hospitality. And he runs this beautiful homestay in Jaipur. Durga Singh ji, I'd like you to talk about Diwali, please, and tell us about the origins of Diwali and how old is this tradition?
So, taking the question in two forms, how old is the tradition? Well, it is as old as Hindu religion, the Sanatan Dharma, and it is celebrated on Kartik, the Hindu month of Kartik, Amavasya, the darkest night. And it is believed that Lakshmi, the goddess of Wealth, the wife of Vishnu, walks about the town, the universe, the world, and whosever house is well lit, clean, and welcoming, she walks in, and that household or business prospers. So we all want to prosper. So we spring clean our houses, we keep it well lit, we repaint, and we hope she will walk in. Also, the other reason that Lord Rama, after he had his victory over Ravana, the demon, he returned to Ayodhya, and when he returned to Ayodhya, there was a celebration. Thirdly, Lord Mahavira, one of the last of the Tirthankars of the Jain faith, also attained moksha or nirvana on that day. So there is the celebration. So as far as how old it is as old as Sanatan Dharma, as old as Hinduism, the religion is. And the idea behind this is that we worship Lakshmi and want to welcome her and rejoice the victory of Ram over the demon Ravana.
So thank you so much. So that is one, there is a traditional theological story that you told us about Ram and also Lakshmi. What is the significance of worshipping Lakshmi and wealth on Diwali? Hello?
The question should please come again. What is the significance of Lakshmi on Diwali? Please
yes.
Say it again.
Yes, that is the question, Durga Singh ji. The significance of worshipping Lakshmi on Diwali and the goddess of wealth.
Lakshmi being the consort of Vishnu, and wealth is what makes the whole society run. And we all want to be prosperous. So that's the reason why the day she is on her walk, we want our place to be the one where she comes in. So all the business houses, all the shops, all the homes, wide open, lit, clean, welcoming. That's the text.
Thank you so much. So there's never one linear story for any festival. There are parallel stories running, and I think that is very, very fascinating. May I now invite Shubhamay from Kolkata to speak about Durga Puja. Shubhamay is a Kolkata local and also a licensed guide approved by the Government of India and Archaeological Survey of India. He has widely traveled in India, Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. And his extensive travels have obviously helped him gain a lot of knowledge. His particular interests are Hindu and Buddhist religion and iconography. He's an avid cyclist and a collector of vintage motorbikes. In 2002, Shubhamay organized the first upscale tour program of the Durga Puja Festival of Kolkata. He also does this for us. And so we're very excited to have him with us today. Shubhamay, over to you. Can you tell us how Durga Puja celebrations started in Bengal and especially Kolkata?
See, Bengal's Durga Puja celebration is very famous for its autumn Navaratra during the month of end September, October. The tradition goes back to 13th century AD in undivided Bengal in Bangladesh area. One very powerful zamindar, feudal lord, Uday Narayan of Taherpur district, wanted to organize a Rajasuya Yagya, or the mythological elaborate sacrifice or once upon a time done by the emperors. But their family priest, who was a very learned Pandit at that time, Kulluk Bhatta, said that in Kali Yuga, in modern era, this sacrifice is forbidden. You cannot do it. Instead, he suggested the autumn festival, which is called Akal Bodhan, as done by Lord Rama before vanquishing Ravana to take the blessings of the mother goddess. Exactly the same way you can do. So that was the beginning of this grandeur of autumn Durga Puja festival in undivided Bengal. It was limited among the elite and rich feudal lords because it's very elaborate. For about 10 days festival, last 4 or 5 days are very particularly elaborate. It comes into the city of Kolkata in a grandeur as a way of showing off wealth and prosperity by the nouveau riche middle class in 18th century, particularly after the Battle of Plassey, when Murshidabad's Nawab Siraj-ud-Dowla was dethroned and British East India Company practically took over the political power of Bengal. At that time, Warren Hastings's secretary, Navakrishna Dev, told that this time we are not going to the Kali temple of Kolkata in Kali Ghat to thank Mother Kali for the victory, but we are going to celebrate it at home. So Navakrishna Dev in 1757, first time in Kolkata, organized this Durga Puja festival in a very elaborate manner. And following him from the next year, all other rich families started copying it to show off their wealth. That way it has continued and being continued till our era in a form of carnival in the neighborhood organized by the local clubs, and also the old elite families are celebrating the same festival as they used to do uninterrupted for last 370 years in certain families.
That's fascinating.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shubhamay, for that very insightful introduction to Durga Puja. May I now invite Mr. Renan Irani to speak about Mysore Dussehra. Mr. Irani is managing partner of Yazdi Distilleries along with his wife Jyotsna. They run a boutique homestay in Mysuru. He is actively involved in conducting the annual Mysuru Literature Festival, and he was instrumental in structuring the development of junior golfers in the country, and served as the president of the Indian Golf Union in 2013 and 14. He's a governing council member of the Ideal Java Rotary Children's School and a trustee of the Asha Kiran Charitable Trust and Hospital. So, Mr. Irani, I'd like you to tell us a bit more about Mysore Dussehra and how this 400-year-old tradition is still followed by the royal family there.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for the introduction, Loveleen. Basically, the Dasara festival, which was in Karnataka, used to be, maybe in the 15th century onwards, organized by the Rajas of the Vijayanagar Empire. And it was used mainly as a, for military posturing. They used to have like a darbar where all the vassals would come and pay obeisance to the ruling Maharaja. And on the last day, the Vijayadashmi day, there would be a grand procession of all the military might, and it would go to the outskirts of the city, where the Raja would then fire an arrow in the 4 directions, north, south, east, west. And whichever direction the arrow went the furthest, that would be the, the target of the next military, the operation, the conquest to come in that zone. Then what happened is, as the empire died down, then you had the local rajas and chieftains that sort of gained popularity and declared themselves as rulers for smaller areas. And in 1610, Raja Warrior from Mysore, he took over, annexed Srirangapatna, and where there was a golden throne which was said to be, from the Pandavas. So he took over and he sat on the throne. And on that same year, he continued the Dasara tradition of the Vijayanagar kingdom and declared it as he being the rightful heir to that whole festival. But slowly moved away from being a military, to show the military might. It moved more to being more ritualistic. And of course, it takes part over 10 days, 9 nights, and the 10th day, 9 nights being the Navaratri, and then the 10th day, the Dasara day. These are the first 10 days of the Hindu month of Ashwin. So this continued from 1610 onwards in Mysore, except for a brief period when Tipu Sultan was the ruler of Srirangapatna. And subsequently, after the Mysore Wars and the Warrior family again reinstated to the throne, they continued the tradition. And they used to have the Darbar, and following the Darbar, there was a grand procession on the last day, Vijayadashmi day. Basically a celebration of the victory of good over evil. It's a celebration of goddess Chamundeshwari conquering Maheshwara, who was the king of like a demon king. So it's to show gratitude and thanksgiving to goddess Chamundi for conquering evil and obviously bringing peace and happiness to the land. So in Karnataka, it's also known as the Nada Habba, which is the festival of the land and for the people. And it's still celebrated in that way. Earlier in the main procession, you would have the Maharaja who would, sit on the throne, on the elephant, and then go through the procession. And of course, after the privy purses went and the Maharajas, didn't have so much to pomp and splendor, reduced. It almost came to a standstill. One year, the people of Mysore, the citizens of Mysore, got together and conducted a citizens' Dasara, which got such a good response that from the subsequent years, the government stepped in and started conducting it. And today the procession is done where the main elephant carries, the golden throne is on the main elephant, weighing the throne weighing close to 800 kilos of gold. And on that is the statue of the goddess Chamundeshwari, which is taken down the streets of Mysore, culminating at a torchlight parade near the outskirts of the city. So this year will be the 410th year of the celebration for the Mysore Kingdom.
How very interesting. Thank you for that introduction. We'd now like to talk about Ganesh Chaturthi, which is celebrated, which is huge in Mumbai. We have with us Harshvardhan Tanwar, who is a Mumbai local, a former advertisement professional and the co-founder of No Footprints, a creative travel boutique with a single focus to bring to the fore the lost and lesser known community-based stories and the stories of people, migration, history, food, festivals, trade, legends and myths. When he is not touring with his clients, you'll find him having conversations about anything to anyone willing to listen. So we have with us Harsh today. And Harsh, please tell us what is the significance of celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi and how did it turn into this huge, grand public celebration in Maharashtra? And I have one more question related to this. Is this somehow connected to, related to the Indian freedom struggle in some way?
Right. Firstly, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the kind introduction. That's true. I'm ready to talk to anyone who's ready to listen. Now we have like 200 people, so this is just apt for me. Ganesh Chaturthi, of course. I mean, when you look at Ganesh Chaturthi can be, it's there in whether you look at, mythology. There is, of course, history. There is popular culture reference, and also, of course, as you mentioned, there's a political reference to it. Mythologically, I think lots of people know the story. Parvati was taking a bath, and from a skin, some people say, because mythology is so interesting, there are so many variations to it. Shiva had Nandi as, someone that he could go to, or his right-winged person. So, Parvati also wanted someone, to be there with her. So through her skin, some say, or through sandalwood, some say, or through her balm, some say, she gave birth to Ganesh. Now, Ganesh one day was, of course, Parvati went in for a bath. So Ganesh was, entrusted with not allowing anyone to come, inside, the house. And Shiva came from Kailash, and he said, I want to go in. Of course, Ganesh didn't allow him. And, Shiva was enraged and cut off his head. That made, when Parvati came out and saw this, she was extremely enraged. And, the Devas all came to, Shiva and said, listen, you have to stop her, otherwise the world will end. And that's when, he told his Ganas that please go and, find the head of an animal that's sleeping. And as luck has it, they found, the elephant, who is, of course, considered to be one of the more intelligent animals. And the rest is history, because, now you see Ganesh with the elephant's head. He's also called Vignaharta, or the remover of all obstacles. He's the first god we pray to before we start any ritual or project or venture. And of course, in Maharashtra, he's venerated. Historically, when you look back, and Ganesh Chaturthi can be traced back to, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and the Peshwa rule following it. He was the Kul Devta for Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. And, this was celebrated, or Ganesh Utsav was celebrated throughout, during the time of Shivaji Maharaj, and went on till the Peshwa rule. Of course, when the East India Company came down, there was a paucity in the celebrations, but it came back again in 1893 through the father of Indian unrest, which is Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Now, it's very, very interesting again to know why Ganesh Chaturthi was revived, because while it was always, done in people's homes, and of course, Ganesh was as a festival celebrated, but to make it a mass exercise was all because of Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak, because he said that this was a great way to bring nationalistic pride among people. Having said that, among people, let me just say, Hindu folks at that time, right, just to bring them together. And why it was, why it got people together, because agnostic of caste, whether it was low caste or high caste people, it was, it was a festival that brought people together. So this was a great way also of kind of diluting, casteism in a way, and just to bring people together for the common interest of, unification, so that we can fight as a front with the British. So that's when Ganesh Chaturthi, he started the Sarvajanik Ganesh Utsav, which was, people coming in a pandal and coming down and actually praying to Lord Ganesh. But in that time, right, also there were poetries, there were, plays, right, that people, came up with, which spoke about nationalistic sentiments. So this turned out to be a small festival celebrated in homes, right, to becoming a big, massive festival as we see it today, thanks to, Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak. And today, of course, it carries on from, one pandal, which was in Keshav Nayak Chaul in Girgaon in 1893, to today there are nearly about 12,500 pandals. So that journey has really gone on, and it's actually become one of the biggest festivals, that Mumbai sees, which is celebrated across 10 days. That starts with Ganesh Chaturthi, ends with Anant Chaturdashi, which is, of course, 11 days actually, counting, the first day and the last. We also have something in Maharashtra, which is the Gauri Puja that happens on the, 4th, 5th, and 6th day, something that, we can discuss later on. But to give you an idea of all the three types, so there's history, pop culture, or even mythology, there's a reference to Ganesh Chaturthi in all three.
So very interesting, Harsh. Thank you for your inputs. I now want to move to the next phase of our discussion, the uniqueness and celebratory styles of each festival. I'm going to jump here and bring Holi first and speak to Abhishek Hajela, who's joined us specifically to speak about Braj Ki Holi. And he's a photographer par excellence and recipient of the International Nikon Award. He's traveled across India capturing stunning frames of the cultural festivals of India. And he's worked very closely with brands like National Geographic Traveler, Lonely Planet, Olympus, and Manfrotto, Nikon, and also Gura Gear. He curates and leads photography tours with global photo tour companies and also conducts virtual travel photography workshops with Nat Geo Traveler. So welcome Abhishek and thank you for being here today. I'd like you to tell us about Braj Ki Holi, and this region witnesses several different types of Holi actually. The Latmar Holi, Phoolon Ki Holi, and so, it's so different from how it is celebrated in the rest of the country. So look forward to hear from you.
Hello everyone. Hello Loveleen. Thank you for the introduction. I hope I'm clear to everyone. Am I audible? Okay.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
First of all, happy World Photography Day. Today is
yes.
It's my festival today.
Indeed.
Yes, so I think Holi in Braj, I think it's the most colorful festival one can ever see in India. And I have been taking groups there for a long time now. And I remember the first time that I went there, which was I think in 2008. That time it was only locals and probably just a handful of photographers or tourists. But now I think it's more tourists and photographers than the actual people. But still, I would say if one has to see colors of India in a big way, there is no other festival like the Braj Ki Holi. It is chaotic, crowds everywhere, color, water, and one has to be really careful, but it's worth all the effort. So I think it is one of the most celebrated festival in India. And I feel unlike the bigger cities where Holi is now restricted to families and farmhouses and just friends, still in Braj, this is celebrated in a mass way, where the whole city comes together, the local administration comes together, the families, the restaurants, you know, the age-old sweet shops, hotels, the huge big temples, they all come together and celebrate it in a big way. And that's what makes it so colorful and unique. And I think it's a week-long thing that takes place. And I have been there several times. And I think it's one of the most amazing festivals to cover. And I think it's a must for each and every photographer or traveler who's interested in India to show them Holi. So I think, yes, it's one of the most amazing things to see.
So is it that each region or village, let's say, celebrates in a different way? So when do they have the Holi with flowers, and when do they beat each other up, literally? Tell us a little bit more about it. So, I don't think all of us know enough.
Okay. So now what has happened, they have a schedule for each and every activity. So it's like a 10-day schedule, starting from the main temple. Then it starts from Barsana, which is the main village of Radha. Then it's go to Nandgaon, then it's go to several temples. So I think one of the most spectacular view is when you go to Barsana, and when the people, or you can say the boys from Nandgaon, the neighboring village, they come to Barsana, and they get beaten up by the ladies of Barsana village. And I think that's the most unusual way of celebrating a festival. And each temple would celebrate it differently. So the main temples will have mostly Phoolon Ki Holi because it's easier. So they'll only use flour and colored powder. Most of the festival will use colored powder. Only a few places will have water. So I think it's good, because when you see a festival, it's better to just have powdered color than to have water all over you. So every place would have a different kind of Holi. So at the end, the Holi is celebrated in another temple where ladies beat men, and this can be random men. They does not have to be from a particular village. So they go in a circle and ladies keep beating them, and this happens in a specific temple near Mathura. So each temple will have something different, but mostly it will be only celebrated with flowers and colored powder. And as you can see in the presentation, the picture, this is a new thing that has started, where the widows have started playing Holi. And this is an initiative that is done by a Delhi-based NGO. And this is something which is really attracting people from all over the world. And it's very spectacular when you see old ladies wearing all white and then playing with, marigolds and colored powder. So I think this is now becoming one of the most attracted scene to capture in all of Holi.
Fascinating. I think our audience would like to know a little bit more about why the women beat up the men.
Okay, so as historically they say that once Krishna asked, his mom that why I am dark and Radha is of a fairer complexion. So just to, answer him, so Krishna said that I also want to be either fairer or make Radha same complexion as mine. So the mother said that, okay, go to Radha and you can smear color on her face and she'll be darker as you are. So then he went to Radha's village and he, smeared color on her face to make her darker. And that's how it started. And then it all became, it's still now Nandgaon where Krishna was. So these young boys will pretend to be Krishna and they will come to the village of Radha, which is the next village. And there they won't allow them to color them so easily. So first they'll beat them because they know that these boys are coming to throw color at them or smear color at them. So they'll, restrict them. And that's how the whole thing started, that they are beating them. But it's just a blessing that they're taking from these girls, or which are pretending to be Radha at that time. So it has a very nice gesture behind it, that Krishna is coming and Radha is kind of, telling him not to do it. And then he's putting color on her and he's, like beating, not beating, but it's just a thing that she's telling him not to do. And that's how it became the Latmar Holi. So people would come from Nandgaon, and this is how it will take place. So it's very interesting, and it's when you see it, the ladies we are beating the men, and it's very interesting when you see it in person.
We will talk about the logistics of being able to see all this a bit later, because I'm sure it will be very, very chaotic to be in the middle of all this.
Yes, yes, it is.
Thank you, Abhishek, for that very interesting insight into Braj Ki Holi.
Thank you.
May I now please Durga Singh ji to speak on the uniqueness of Diwali celebrations, specifically in Jaipur, and how do they celebrate and what has changed over the years?
Thank you for this very interesting question. You see, the uniqueness of Diwali Jaipur, if we were to dwell on it, it has Diwali celebration. The part Lakshmi Puja has two aspects to it. One, that it is done in the business house, a shop, an office, or any place of commerce business where you earn your living. And it is done at home with the family. So one uniqueness of the Jaipur Diwali, that it is still done with huge reverence and seriousness. So in your shop or office, the whole staff will there will be worshipping of Lakshmi. And at this time, they used to worship the Bahi Khata, the account books, which are the handmade, red colored bound account books. They would also worship the kalam, pen, and the ink, kalam dawat. After this is done, the owner of the business and all the staff will go home, and then with the family they will do Lakshmi Puja, and the whole night there will be lamps of oil and things on, and of course the fireworks and things. So the speciality of Jaipur is still done with equal seriousness and reverence. It is not diluted. Wearing traditional clothes, applying mehndi, and reconciliation of accounts. That has changed. Now the government accounting runs from March. Therefore, they do not reconcile the account at that time. Also, what has changed is that show off. I'm being a bit blunt. Earlier, the lighting and everything, very personal. It was business family, your employees and you. It was your relatives' family. It was not to show off. Now, who has better lights, who does more firecrackers, etc., etc. So that has changed. The last point on this dress, the dresses which were worn, now black and blue actually in Hinduism are not such a common. But here we would have golden filigree, the Otapatti work, and it would be a completely golden dress for ladies, especially the royal ladies. It has to have a black background or a blue, otherwise the gold not stand out. So it's one time when they are allowed to wear black, actually golden, but base is black. So these are some uniqueness and changes.
Thank you, Durga Singh ji. Do people still paint their houses, wear new clothes? And I remember growing up with, getting new clothes on Diwali was a big thing. And does it still happen in smaller towns and cities that people have new clothes and houses get painted and cleaned?
Yes, it still happens with as much seriousness. The spring cleaning is quite a nightmare because the house drives the whole household mad because you have to help. Now those days are gone when you had many attendants who did it. Now you do it yourself. So it's almost like in the West, Christmas, everyone wants to celebrate, wants to be with the family, but the preparation now it's overbearing. So I honestly will say the preparation, the 2 weeks before Diwali, and the painters are in shortage. A lot of things have to be done. So it has become rather overbearing. But then if you don't set final goals and get into the spirit, jitna hoga utna acha, as much as could be done, done. If you can accept that, then you can have your cake and eat it too. Otherwise it's a bit difficult. But everyone does it still with great seriousness.
So thank you so much. May I now ask Shubhamay, Durga Puja celebrations in Kolkata have also evolved into, a long 10-day street art festival. And how did this come about? And they have these little show pandals with various themes. Tell us a bit more about it. How this kind of unfolds in Kolkata.
See, Durga Puja festival in Kolkata from the high elite families evaluated till the level of local neighborhood people collecting contribution and organizing it. Now, the evolutionary states of its festivity has a very interesting history, in fact. If you remember the days of freedom struggle, particularly in 1930s, Bengal became very violent because Bengali revolutionaries never believed the Gandhian way of negotiating independence, but they believed in the Bal Gangadhar Tilak's way of freedom is my birthright and I will have it. So the great revolutionaries, for example, Sri Aurobindo of Pondicherry, he is by origin Aurobindo Ghosh, revolutionary from Calcutta, organized Durga Puja festival in the Revolutionaries Club Anusilan Samiti, where he just arranged on the wall the 10 attributes of Goddess Durga, and a Marathi Brahmin priest worshipped in those weapons Goddess Durga. And the revolutionaries took oaths by the name of Goddess Durga to free India. So it went till, the same spirit went till the independence. Post-independence era, the Barowari or the friends in a neighborhood started organizing gradually. And finally, it is now being sponsored by the multinational companies. So in the city, it has taken a form of big carnival. In the old elite families, it is still with the same spirit of their religious festival, where Ma Durga, a family's daughter, coming back from Shiva's home for just 10 days at home into the father's home. So the Durga Puja icon, if you see in Bengal, she is worshipped along with 2 daughters, Lakshmi and Saraswati, and 2 sons, Ganesha and Kartikeya, all together like a family. Holy family has come back home. That becomes the spirit. And of course, during this festival time, this is our big shopping time, because everybody has to buy their new clothes. And people do a lot of charity, like people buy extra clothing to distribute who cannot afford to buy. So people will go to the temples where the downtrodden people are waiting, or the beggars, if there are. So to everybody will give something, whatever they can. It's like the festival of sharing. And in this festival, there are a lot of hidden details, which begins from the potter's block, that in this festival where the mother cult is worshipped, there nobody is left aside or left out. That is why when the potters start making their icon, every potter has to go to the prostitute's home to beg little bit of clay to add into the making of that icon. Because we believe that we may hate as prostitutes, but they are also the same mother's race, and they are doing a great job being themselves the drain to clean up our filth. So the main folk, when you are worshipping Goddess Durga, go with the same consciousness that who you are worshipping, actually God in man. And then maybe you will have the opportunity to correct yourself. So these are the hidden messages. And then we have 2 distinct disciplines. The Vishnuit families will not worship in Mahisasura Mardini, or the goddess vanquishing a buffalo demon. They will worship Shiva and Parvati sitting side by side on Nandi. So they follow the religious text called Brihat Nandikeshvara Purana. And others will follow either Durga Bhakti Tarangini or mostly Sri Sri Saptashati Chandi. Now, Sri Sri Saptashati Chandi is a total metaphor, and it is believed by certain scholars that it is actually a Buddhist text. The oldest copy of Chandi is found in Royal Nepal Archive, handwritten on palm leaf by a Buddhist monk. And what it talks about in the whole battle between Durga and different demons, it's a yogi's own struggle to transcend his own evil emotions and spirits into pure devotion and love. So all these things are mixed there. When you actually attend the festival from family to family, following different disciplines, people can tell you those stories.
This is so interesting, and I think, Shubhamay, this is probably true for all our festivals. There is no one linear binary, and there are multiple layers within each story.
Yes.
And I think that's the most fascinating thing about Hinduism. Harsh, my next question is to you. Would you like to tell us, in some ways, Ganesh Chaturthi is very, in the way it is celebrated, is kind of can be compared to Durga Puja in some sense.
Right.
Tell us about this Lal Bagh Cha Raja, and also tell us the similarities with Durga Puja, and also how is it different?
Right. So, you know, as I was telling you about Ganesh Chaturthi, I think the reason why it became such a big festival was because of, there was, of course, a political agenda behind it. And the idea of the immersion of idols started with, Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Ganesh Chaturthi over time, of course, has gained extreme popularity in the region of Konkan, also, you know, areas where the Maratha rule was very, very big. So whether you look at the Deccan area, so, you know, in Andhra, if you also go, I think it's celebrated. It's quite a big festival. Lal Bagh Cha Raja is, you know, considered to be the god who helps, right? He's the god who, you know, gives you any wish that you ask for. You go and you ask him and it will be fulfilled. You know, that's the belief amongst people. And it started off in 1932. There was a chawl called Peru Chawl, right? And that's where, you know, there was a market which used to exist. It was, you know, and this story of Lal Bagh Cha Raja actually goes back to the original inhabitants of Bombay, which are the Kolis. So, you know, Peru Chawl was one of the places where the fish market used to, used to ply. And the people complained because it was unfortunately a temporary structure, and the government did not give them permission to kind of continue with that, with hosting the market there. So the Kolis, you know, prayed to Lord Ganesh because, as I told you, you know, across, you know, the beauty about this festival is it's across, caste. There are no caste barriers because Ganesh is, you know, revered by people, whether it's the Dalits or, you know, among the Brahmins. So this was, you know, across caste, they would pray to Ganesh. So the Kolis prayed to Ganesh saying, you know, please give us another place to operate in. And in 1934, what happened was that there was a councillor at that time, Kuwar Jetabai Shah, and he, worked towards actually kind of rehabilitating these people. And they spoke to this gentleman who was, a landlord of an area in Lal Bagh, which is one of the, place where Lal Bagh Cha Raja, of course, is famous for. So he was a landlord. So he decided to give a place to set up this market. And when, this market was set up, they said, hey, our wishes have been fulfilled. And which is why, Lal Bagh Cha Raja got the veneration as someone who, fulfills wishes. So when you actually see the first Lal Bagh Cha Raja, now, of course, he comes in the grandeur of being like a king. He actually was dressed up as a Koli. The first time the Lal Bagh Cha Raja happened in 1934. Of course, the veneration, went to another level where today, the 10-day festival, you would see people who coming from different parts of Maharashtra, especially to come and, pray to him. It's believed nearly 1 crore. There's about close to about 10 million people form a 24-hour line during the time to just go and, come to pray to him. And when you walk those lanes, whenever you come down to Bombay, I'll take you in. It's very, very hard to imagine that 1 crore people can actually come into that little place, that's dedicated to him. It is insane, right? Just to see such a big idol being able to come in such a small place. And you can actually also go and pray to him because, when he's not there in the other of the, the rest of the year, it's the rest of the 355 odd days of the year, there's a small stone that people come and, pray to at that time that exists, at the Lal Bagh market. Over years, Lal Bagh Cha Raja, this year, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, they are not having the Lal Bagh Cha Raja. I think first time in 126 years of its existence is the first time when they're not having it. But they've put a plasma and a blood donation camp there for, the people who are, affected by the pandemic. So they've always, Lal Bagh Cha Raja has always taken the amount of donations, and trust you me, the donations go into multiples of crores, right? When you actually see the amount of people that come and donate because of the love that they have for the god, they actually use it in very, very interesting and, in philanthropic ways possible. Of course, just like, Shubhamay was talking about Durga Puja. People at home and outside have their own way of celebration. In every home is celebrated. It's more muted compared to, say, what you would see in the Sarvajanik Mandals, where there's band, vaja, the works, right? It goes, let me just say, for the lack of a better word, everyone's just going apeshit at that time. And I say, I often tell this to people who haven't visited Bombay. Bombay is basically Delhi on steroids. And, during the time of Ganesh Utsav, Bombay is on steroids. So you can imagine how, the city is then. And of course, it's become such a big, not just a social, but political, space for, so many of the local cooperators, to come in. Of course, there's a lot of donation that comes in. Now, when you go down and see the Ganesh Pandals, there are, multinational companies that are actually going and sponsoring it. So it's a great advertising medium for them. And as I told you, from one Ganesh idol, now you have nearly about 12,000 odd Ganesh idols Pandals that exist. And each of them are vying for the spot, to become the most venered or most venerated Ganpati. But of course, Lal Bagh Raja is truly the king of Bombay during those 11 days.
How interesting, Harsh. Thank you for all the stories you've told us on this. A takeaway from your stories is, I have a question for Navneet. Navneet, despite being primarily a Hindu festival, Holi was heartily accepted by the Mughals and also the Nizams in their culture. What are your thoughts on this?
I think culturally, you see, like I was mentioning earlier, Holi has influenced the North Indian culture specifically.
Yeah.
So many dimensions, with the music, with all these traditions. And when something like that happens, it becomes cross-cultural. You go to Nizamuddin Dargah and Khusro is playing Holi with Hazrat Nizamuddin.
Yes.
I mean, how much more beautiful can it be? The finest verses of Holi, or if you take the example of Banaras, one of the, the great Mir Rustam Ali, he wrote poetry about the Holi in Banaras. And till date, this is now nearly 200 plus years, 300 years, his songs of Holi are still sung in temples in Banaras.
Yeah.
So it was Holi because it was a harvest festival. It brought culture, it broke all cultural divides, it broke all hierarchies. It went through, horizontally it went through different layers, and vertically it went through. So it was like a complete expansion of your celebration.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Because
so
it was always about people. You see, it was always, Holi was a festival of people. It was a festival where Krishna became one among everybody. He was no longer the divine Lord Krishna,
Yeah. So this brings me to the third phase of our topic, question and answer. So the personal experiences. So each one of us has childhood memories and fond imagery of what the festival was like and has been a part of us. So I'd like to ask about Diwali from Durga Singh ji again. And what is the fondest memory you have of Diwali, and what makes it so special?
In earlier times, we would be celebrating with earthenware lamps and cotton wicks. So thousands of lamps had to be washed, the battis had to be made, and then the children who normally were not allowed to go on roofs, but on Diwali, their help had to be taken. So allowed to go on roofs, climb on the parapet walls and place the lamps, fill them with oil, and then light them. What also was an important memory, that when Lakshmi Puja was done, the whole family sat together, recited the hymns, and the lamps of ghee, clarified butter, fat and tail were kept on for the whole night. Now, what I must mention, everyone did it, but here comes a gust of wind and all the diyas would extinguish. Now, it was nothing to feel sad about. They would simply say, Ram ji ki marji hai. It is the wish of God Almighty. Go children, light them again. And there we would go again. So this was some of the memories. Getting into traditional dress, the turban, the kurta, the dhoti for the ladies, their traditional Rajasthani dress is an again memory. What has changed now? Now diyas are only symbolic. It's electric lights now. Lakshmi Puja is not so methodical, and it's only the elders doing it or the head of the business with his chief accountant and a few important people. Earlier, the entire office, the entire, the peon, the cleaner, the everyone, the entire family had to be present. So that has changed, but it was fun and it was not serious. Now, now it's got a bit serious and a bit formal. Also, the tail piece to this, what has changed, after you set up all your jewelry and all your Lakshmi Puja and you get into your car and go to see the lights in the city, the thieves and the burglars have a heyday because the house is empty and it's a day for the thieves, and you can come and find the police hate it because they have to keep working and filling in forms of umpteen burglaries.
That's an interesting take on the Diwali day. When you're expecting Lakshmi, wealth to come in, you have robbers coming in. Right. Shubhamay, have you experienced Durga Puja outside of Kolkata, and how is that different from the city, the slickness of the city?
See, wherever we go, be it in Kolkata or outside in the villages, in my childhood memories, I first of all remember the shopping, like going to the largest Bata shop to buy the pair of new shoes. That was something very exciting. And while coming back after the shop, have to have Coca-Cola. That was like our prize during the Durga Puja festival. But now when I go beyond the city limit to the villages, to the old family residences, which may not be very wealthy today, but still celebrates the festival, it's wonderful to see all the relations, even people who are placed in abroad, they all will come back to their ancestral home and participate into the festival together in the old-fashioned way. So the tradition is very much alive. And in our traditional way of any festivity, particularly of Durga Puja, the last day, Dasera, is very important, because after the immersion of the image, people will visit the relations and friends always with some homemade delicacy of sweet dishes. So during the Durga Puja festival, there is one big phase of cooking all delicacies at home, offering it to the goddess Durga, even non-veg items, fish, meat, everything in Bengal. And the last day, Durga Puja, so Dashera, as you celebrate in North India, Navami day, all the housewives will be engaged into already making the sweet dishes for Dashera. So the whole arrangement of making those sweets, about 25 or 27 different delicacies made at home, and then going to the friends' places, relations, with boxes filled with that, and coming back with the sweets made in the other house. So it's a total exchange. This is something wonderful, and the most authentic way, if you have to see, you'll have to go to the villages. Because in cities, we do not make it at home anymore. We go to the famous sweet shops, order the box, bring back. But in the villages, they still make it at home. Food
and
is
there's
one
a
great
nice
part.
exchange. Yes.
Yes, that's the exchange. And food is a great part of the festival.
That's my next section, actually. But anyways, thank you for your memory. My question now is to Mr. Irani. What are your fond memories of a lively Dashera in Mysore?
Um, of course, going back when I was a child, maybe about 10 years old, when the Maharaja himself conducted the festival, you have to understand that the Maharaja of Mysore was a very revered person. Even though after independence, you know, there were no Maharajas per se. But if you can imagine that in our city, when the Maharaja drove in his car, any other vehicle, be it a bus or a lorry or a motor vehicle, would immediately pull over to the side of the road and park up, like what you would see abroad when an ambulance or a fire engine whizzed by. Anybody on a cycle would immediately stop, dismount, bow his head. Anybody walking would stop and bow their heads when the Maharaja drove by. So to see him in the procession on Vijayadashmi Day, sitting on the elephant, this was wonderful for the people, not just of Mysore, but from all the surrounding villages and towns. People would gather. We used to get maybe 200, 300,000 people lining the streets, waiting for the Maharaja to go by, because it was a visual, it was a real visual to see him, you know, go through. And that's something that will always be there in our memories. Also his darbars for the 9 nights, 9 evenings, there would be a darbar in the palace, because the palace was the epicenter of all the functions and the festivities. And Maharaja would have a darbar where, you know, the prominent people and the Arsu, from the Arsu family and the nobles, etc., would all come, and he would listen to them and, you know, exchange pleasantries. And then, of course, there would be music and some kind of an entertainment. So this is really what something, you know, today it is more akin to a Republic Day parade where all the districts of the state have tableaus, and we showcase Karnataka to the people of the state and the country and the world. And we have the dancers and all that. And of course, the goddess Chamundeshwari will be there on the elephant. But then don't forget, you can still get to a temple and worship goddess Chamundeshwari. But those days, to get to see the Maharaja, you got only this one day on Vijayadashmi where the people could actually see him visually. And I think that was very much in our, implanted in our memory.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My next section is on food, and food is a very, very important part of all our festivals, and every festival has a specific traditional dish that is prepared, and it has evolved over the years, obviously. So I'll start with asking Harsh about Ganesh Chaturthi. So Harsh, tell us about, I know Ganesh ji loves his laddus. Is there something special that happens during Ganesh Chaturthi? What is the food like?
You know, I'm just going to correct that. Ganesh ji loves all food. And I think that's why it's one of my favorite festivals, right? And especially sweets, loves it. It's a good thing that you're just seeing this part of me on screen and I'm not getting up. You'd know I love food. But jokes apart, I think Ganesh Chaturthi, you know, is of course venerating Lord Ganesh, who loved his laddus, right? And in Maharashtra, they have something called Ukriche Modak. Ukriche Modak is basically made out of rice flour. And that is traditionally actually given to, you know, as a prasad to Lord Ganesh. And it's made out of a rice flour. And inside that, they put coconut and jaggery. And then they kind of pack that up and they steam it, right? Of course, there are variations where people fry it as well, right? But traditionally, it's of course a steamed dumpling, for the lack of, you know, just to kind of understand how it looks like. So modakam is generally what's consumed there. Then they make it out of, you know, mawa as well. But Ukriche Modak is something that is generally made. You also have motichur laddus. You know, in mythology, if you look back, Ganesh would, you know, keep eating, you know, his laddus, and he loved his laddus so much that at one point of time, you know, Parvati didn't know what to feed him because the laddus were getting over and his appetite was insatiable. So she came up with this, you know, white, you know, laddu and gave it to him that actually satiated his hunger. And that was how Ukriche Modak actually came about. People traditionally make that at home. Of course, you can also go, and now it's available in a lot of shops, but in traditional households, they still make it, at home. Puran Poli, something that's also consumed during this time, which is, a flattened bread that they, put jaggery and, besan, and they make it. Then they also have satori in some houses that they make with khoya, which they put in. It's like a flat bread that they eat. Murmure, puffed rice is something that's also given to him. He also, there is a coconut rice that's also prepared. So everything that's sweet is basically made at that time. Some people say that the reason is that, in these hard times, it's always, Ganesh is this time for us, which is considered a very sweet moment in our lives. And the only way to best kind of, celebrate this festival is sweets. So sweets is definitely something that we eat a lot here. And I think for me also, I mean, my fondest growing up memories have been around food with Ganesh Chaturthi as a festival. Not sharing our modaks, just like in mythological tales how Ganesh hated to do it himself. I think all of us hated it, growing up.
So thanks, Harsh. Holi also has very special food and is also related to bhang is consumed. So Banaras Holi, I think, is famous, and Banaras street food and mithais, sweets famous. Navneet or Abhishek, one of you, would you like to elaborate on the Holi food in Banaras for us?
Yeah. Abhishek ji, would you like to talk, or shall I go ahead?
Yes, I can then maybe just tell something about Mathura food.
Abhishek can add too.
Yes. Okay. So Banaras has a very interesting tradition of food related to Holi. There is specifically a festival that happens, which is part of the Holi festival, called the Budwa Mangal festival. It means the oldest Tuesday. Budwa Mangal is the last Tuesday of the Hindu calendar year. And there, the Maharaja of Banaras organizes a feast and invites the citizens, the prominent citizens of the city, and gives them a treat. But it also happens in different neighborhoods, and it's like a tricks and treat kind of thing. So you want to also hide the marijuana in various forms that your guest doesn't get to see. And it's more popularly now in the form of sweets. It's called as majum because it's hidden in pistachio barfis. But in the old times, people would go through a very elaborate process of hiding the source of marijuana, so no one would really realize where it was from. And of course, the various kinds of thandai that comes in. And I just want to elaborate here because this is very unique of Banaras. The thandai in Banaras traditionally has never been made out of milk. If you put milk in the thandai in Banaras, a real Banarsi will say it's not thandai. It's a milkshake. Thandai in Banaras is made out of almond milk, and it's flavored with the seasonal fruits. And there's a very strong tradition of the process in which this thandai is made. And the thandai for Holi is made even finer. Like they say कि उसमें 3 परत के कपड़े लगाते हैं छानने के लिए. So जीभ में हल्का सा भी जो spices grind किया है, उसका हल्का सा भी flavor जीभ में, it should be smooth. So there's a very, very strong, I mean, it's very refined. Banaras is like Banaras is the more refined version of the Holi. It has a very ugly version of the Holi in the morning. But there's a very strict code of conduct that at 12, all wet Holi stops in Banaras. After 12, you can go out in white kurta pajama like this and no one will throw color at you. And then it's time for families and food sharing after 12 in the afternoon. So it has its, though when you go to Vrindavan, then it's the outpouring of the love, which Abhishek ji will talk about.
Yeah, I think when it comes to food, I think UP is something which I think sits at top, and likewise Banaras and Agra and Mathura. When it comes to food, people love food here, and there is no restrictions on sweet or any kind of food. And I think during Holi also, we remember we used to make gujiyas at home.
Yes.
And still we do it. I mean, now we all go to Haldirams and buy gujiyas, but still there was time when we used to make it at home. And
that image there is of gujia for people who don't know.
Yes. So I think in Mathura region, there are sweet shops which are, famous, and they have been there for hundreds of years, generations making the same sweet over and over again. And during Holi, they make it even better. And I think Kesar Peda is something which is more famous during this time of the year, during Holi. So this is very special pedas. Usually we get pedas only made of without any flavor. And this time it is with saffron. So that's, I think, the more speciality during Holi time. And otherwise, I think, yes, food has not changed in this region for a lot of time. And I think it's a good thing that it has not evolved. It has still the same what, my grandfather used to eat or his father used to eat. It's the same kind of food which is carried on. And I think it's a very good thing that we can go back to, shops which were serving the same kind of food. And during Holi, like in Agra, which is very close to Mathura, right? Like Navneet said that after 12, there is no water Holi. You can go home, get dressed, come down. And usually there would be a community lunch. If you live in an apartment, the whole society will have lunch together after you, wash up, and you come down, you have this food. And also there's an interesting thing that after the day after Holi, we celebrate this festival, which is known as Basoda, wherein you eat food which was made a day before.
Right.
So it's very interesting, the things that take place in this part of our country, especially Mathura, Agra. The traditions have carried on and people really take them very seriously.
Interesting. And I'm sure likewise in Mysore and Kolkata and Rajasthan, there would be specific foods being prepared for each of the festivals. I now want to talk about the economy and how festivals influence production of local arts and crafts, and how they help local artisans continue doing that. So may I ask Shubhamai to specifically talk about idol making during Durga Puja and how it kind of keeps the whole tradition alive and your artisans alive?
Economic impact of Durga Puja festival of Kolkata used to be felt even by the houseboat or shikara owners of Kashmir, because this is the time, the Durga Puja festival holiday time also, the Bengalis travel most everywhere. So Indian outbound tour operators, right from their level till the potters who are making the icons, everybody is benefited. Durga Puja festival, we just do not make one single Durga statue, but it is at the same time Ganesha, Kartikeya, Lakshmi and Saraswati, everybody together. So it's a huge composition. And the price of the statues are somewhere like 200,000 rupees or 300,000 rupees. The budget for each pandal could be like 5 million rupees, sponsored by multinationals. So
wow,
it's big. It's really big. It comes to the level of the humble potters till the end, because when the multinationals sponsor the festival, they also declare competition for the best pandal. So the decorator, laborers of the decorators who are making the pandals, they are benefited. Best lighting, best ambiance, best icon. So the potter also gets an award. Likewise, the new prodigies from the fine art faculties, students are invited, or the artisans from Madhubani or from Chhattisgarh, they are invited to work on a particular pandal based on a particular theme. I still remember 4 years ago, a small humble neighborhood invited the wood carvers from Banaras to decorate the whole pandal with the traditional Banarasi wooden toys.
Wow.
So you can imagine just not the artisans of Bengal, but the neighboring areas everywhere, deep inside villages we hit to get the glimpses of their culture exhibited in our pandals. So you can actually consider this an exhibition ground for the artisanal crafts of India that is manifested along with the imagination or installation work of the fine art faculty students who will later on become very famous painters. Here I would like to refer these painters or sculptors. They are maybe coming from a region people do not know, but they are very, very capable of. Because if you fly by Bombay's new international terminal,
Yeah.
Durga panel on the wall is done by the scroll painters of Noya village of Midnapur district. So they go to that extent, and you can see the whole exhibition in front of you during this festival time. So it's day and night pandal hopping for us.
Beautiful. Harsh, is it similar for Ganesh idol making in Mumbai? Probably not at this level that Kolkata does for Durga Puja, but perhaps at a, almost equal.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the spillover economy is huge, right? When you're looking at economy of Ganesh, it's just not that. The amount of employment it gives, not just to the artisans, but also you're looking at, there are these dholwalas who are employed in those days, because we have, immersions that happen 1.5, 5, 7, and 10 days as per family tradition. And not just, Ganesh idols. You also have, as I was telling you, there is something called as Gauri Ganpathi that happens, which is celebrated in, Maharashtra. And Gauri is venerated as Ganesh's sister who comes in Maharashtra. And she comes home and it's celebrated by the women of the house primarily. And so you have artisans that are actually also making idols of Gauri Ganpathi as well as Ganesha themselves. But, economy of also, sweet makers, right? You have, of course, as I told you, the bandwalas, the people who are in charge of the security. So everyone suddenly, the spillover economy is huge in every festival in India. And particularly in, Maharashtra, we are talking about Ganesh Chaturthi. So yeah, absolutely. You have artisans that come from as far as Uttar Pradesh. There is a workshop that comes here and, they make the most intricate designs. I remember someone, there was one that was made completely out of pistachio, right? Someone made one that was completely made out of supari once. So they get also very, very creative in their renditions. And the idols themselves go on the upward of about, 1.5 to 2 lakhs.
Fascinating. And I remember there was a campaign a couple of years ago, and it's been going on, to buy earthen lamps for Diwali made by our potters rather than buying lights made in China or somewhere else, Similarly, I think Mysore, Mr. Irani, does Mysore have anything, any traditional craft that comes into fore during Mysore Dasera?
Yeah, during the Dasara, we have what we call a Bombay Habba,
Right.
which is, where the dolls, they have miniature dolls. So that's the period when dolls are produced and sold, and also people display the dolls at their house. So it's a lot of the houses, a lot of the people have collected dolls over the years. They have dolls of the Maharaja and Maharani standing. They have dolls depicting people in the procession. Could be on a horseback like a Mysore lancer, or lancers walking, soldiers, etc. And all these little dolls are bought every year, and people keep building their collections. So this is quite a very popular thing for idol making. And also there are miniature versions of the palace that are made and sold like hotcakes. So I think that's basically the limit of the impact that the arts and crafts have during the festival.
Thank you so much. I think we are coming to the close of our session, and I'll just take 5 more minutes to kind of wrap up and set everybody's our clients and guests and visitors' expectations right for coming to see each festival. The last part is just quickly, maybe if everybody can take a minute to tell us what should a visitor expect from participating in a particular festival. So Durga Singh ji, would you like to tell us about Diwali? What is a realistic expectation for visitors?
I have 3 points to make here.
Yes.
Am I audible to everyone? Yes.
Yes, yes, very much.
One, that when they compare Diwali to Christmas, everything is not closed, everything is open. In fact, it is more open.
Yes.
It's a 4-day celebration. So starting Dhanteras, jewelry, utensils, etc., are bought. Second thing, visiting a home for the Diwali Puja, as our office organizes so many times, we have to build up an expectation that the guest should not feel that he's encroaching on anybody. It is with the explicit consent of the family and his hosting capabilities that the guests are being taken to a home. The third aspect, the fireworks and the number of laws governing them in countries, some they are banned in some countries, etc., has safety concerns in the mind of the guest. So we have to make them expect that yes, fireworks will be very overbearing, but we as operators will not let them participate anything beyond sparklers, the puljadi. That's as far as we get, and we also properly provide a place to dispose of the fuljadi. Another expectation which has to be set necessarily is how to dress, because many guests want to dress exactly like the locals. So instead of a very elaborate one, a good Punjabi or a simple sari is a good idea. So these are some of the expectations which we have to. Then the last, because they will be offered food, so is the food hygienic? How much of it I should have or how much I should not? So these are very common to other festivals also, all the apprehensions.
Thank you. That was very, very useful. And I think it is, yes, as you said, applicable to many other festivals. So some rare festivals. So Shubhamay and Harsh, for both your places, are there, can you suggest local homes where foreigners can see this festival comfortably? And are there places where you recommend, and what should be the expectation? So
Exactly.
Shubhamay, then Harsh, please.
Since 2002, I started doing this, the traditional Durga Puja festival in old elite family homes, where we have been able to take guests to certain places, certain families where no television camera enters.
Right.
But guests are welcome. So the expectation is participating in a grand festival in a very interactive way with a family in the family. So experiencing the whole festivity with the family members in every dimension, right from the food, and they can sit with the people, the interaction with the women, open, very open. This is the expectation. And if somebody is a little adventurous to go beyond what I commercially have never done, there is in North Bengal, in Jalpaiguri, Kuchbihar district, a sub-clan of Shabar tribe. They call themselves, they are the descendants of Asura. So it is the festival time for all of us, but for them it is mourning period. During the Dasara day, when we celebrate the victory of good over evil, they dance Dasai dance. The story is one invader Aryan lady warrior seduced their chieftain Durga with alcohol and finally killed. And then the Aryan invaders massacred their civilization. So Dasera day, they will celebrate their escape from the domination by dressing up in peacock feather. So they will be all in disguise of peacock, dancing in the forest. With the dance, they finally will disappear into the jungle. So that's how they actually escaped from the invaders long time ago. It's a mythological history for them. So they celebrate that, this Dasai dance, that still happens. It's a different point of view to the whole festival of victory of good over evil.
Thank you. Thanks, Shubhamay. So, Harsh, are there local homes in Mumbai from where the foreign guests can see the festival comfortably,
Right.
or participate in, or would you suggest them going into the procession?
Right. So if you're primarily talking about Ganesh Chaturthi, yes, we actually organize, a home visit just to kind of get the feeling of, the juxtaposition. So we do the pandal hopping as well as a home visit. And just the juxtaposition of those two kind of celebrations, one, as I said, is fairly muted and more intimate. The other is, out there, and how creatively people kind of showcase the pandals with a storyline. We also do something very interesting, which, I always tell my guests to do is, how we also involve them in making the ukdiche modak, which is quite an interesting, activity for them to do. We have conversations around economics. So we actually take them down and we show them how these, these dhols that are used are actually made, and how is that economy that works. Because, it's very important to also just not understand the festival as it is, but what is the kind of cultural ramification it has on so many other people that are involved in it. So when we do a tour around it, it's like a whole day of kind of understanding the festivities through culture, tradition, business, people, in its totality, including food. Like, what is a Vrat ka khana? Why do, women during the time of, Gauri Ganpathi actually pray to her? The married women pray, of course, for the longevity of the husbands. The unmarried women pray for a husband, and then they have these games that they play along with doing something like a fugdi, which they hold each other's hands and they play these games with them. So there's an entire gamut of things that people can expect. Of course, for the lion-hearted, if they want to go down and see the Visarjan on the 10th day, we kind of tell them, we're going to view this from a distance, because going in there is chaotic. It's like the old Kumbh Ka Mela, and you don't want your foreigners to be getting lost there, and people saying on loudspeakers, we have Mike with us, please come and get him, right? For the more, lion-hearted people, of course, we take them with us, but we do that for FITs more than, groups.
Okay. So a similar question to Mr. Irani. We were speaking earlier about how cities can get very chaotic during festivals. What is a realistic expectation for the Mysore Dussehra, Mr. Irani?
For a visitor for the Dussehra, look, there's 10 days of festivities. The palace is lit up. The whole city actually is lit up. So wherever you roam, all the roads are full of lights. Every avenue is full of lights. The city looks beautiful. The palace being the epicenter, there's music and dance there every evening, free of charge. You just walk into the palace grounds and you can partake of that festival. Then the day before Vijayadashmi day, of course, is Aydah Puja, where weapons and all the implements and tools of the trade are worshipped. So, people can visit homes or factories or shops when the puja is being done. All the vehicles in the town will, after puja, will be moving around. Sometimes you wonder how they can look through their windshields, because they've got the windshields painted up, banana leaves all over, garlands, flowers. So each vehicle actually looks like a tableau from the procession. So it's really very colorful. the government, what it does is it sells a gold pass, especially for the foreigners. So what happens is that they get free, and one ticket entrance for the palace, for the zoo, for the various museums, and also for the Dasara procession. So if the foreigners coming, it will be well worth it to get a gold pass so that they can have the whole ambit out for them. But as we were discussing earlier, because the Dasara is so particular and famous for in Mysore, we get 500,000 people converging on the city over these 10 days. So it can get busy. Hotel rooms will get blocked out very quick. And roads get chock-a-block, which is the bane for any big place. So those who are interested in experiencing the wonderful, the sights, the sounds, and the smells of an Indian festival, yes, definitely it's well worth a visit. Those who want to just experience it as a, while they are concentrating on the rest of the journey, I would suggest that you warn them about the volumes of people and the mass of humanity, so they could give it a miss by, because you don't want to get negative feedback later on that they weren't warned by your
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's very, very real and sensible advice. Now we're coming to the last Holi, the last festival. We actually organize Holi for all our groups, and it's very, very popular with our travelers. But realistically, if an individual traveler wanted to experience this in a very authentic way, Navneet, do you have any ideas? What would you suggest?
So see, in Banaras, you have two Holis. You have one, the morning Holi, and one you have the evening Holi. Now, morning Holi is with colors, and there we have, over the last 7, 8, 10 years, developed a few traditional households where these guests are welcome to participate in the Holi. And so they can get a taste of, you see, like in Banaras, they still make these clay balloons with dry colors in them. And they are so thin that when you hit them on someone, it doesn't really bruise your skin, but that dry color explodes.
Right.
So things like this, the whole cuisines and everything. But the beauty, actually, what I find really beautiful is the Holi in the evening. So at about 6:37 in the evening, there are these deaf Holi singers, because you have the whole tradition of singing Holi. And they go from the traditional temple, one temple to the other, going inside the temple and singing Holi. And at that time, they are greeted with dry colors. So there are a few temples in the old Chowk area. I mean, we have it in our own family temple, which is open to everyone. And as well as other old temples like the Gopal Mandir, and there's a Shahji Ka Mandir, and all these temples. They open that evening to people coming in and experiencing this singing of Holi and the mingling of people. And it's very civilized. So it's,
beautiful.
You keep a distance, there are food offered, and they whirl the color like they do in Barsana, in the air. So it just comes down as little clouds. So you just get drenched in the layers of color. So this is definitely possible. But I would say not to take the guests, whether it's even a very adventurous guest in Banaras specifically, to take these guests out on the street, because morning Holi of Banaras, they will tear your clothes. But if you stay in the house, and then evening Holi is very, very beautiful.
Right.
You get that whole cultural experience of that Holi.
Thank you. Abhishek, would you like to add to what Navneet said, especially for Braj? What should be a realistic expectation for a visitor?
Yeah, I think when we talk about Holi in Braj, we are talking really hardcore.
Yes.
The clients have to be well informed before they come and visit this festival. And that's what I do. I well inform my clients, and the whole trip is organized just to show a bridge Holi, because it's so tiring that after, when you are there for 3 to 4 days, you don't want to visit any other place. You would like to go back to your country, you know. So yes, so this celebration is truly at a very, very large scale, and participants should be ready to walk with thick crowd of people. All you see around is people from all over India, the devotees visiting various temples. So for most of the time, you're walking with a lot of people around you. There are, you know, for ladies, it's much more difficult. So I always advise them to cover themselves as much as you can. Cover your hair, cover your face, because, you know, when the locals see foreigners, they become a soft target, especially when you have cameras with you. So they would like to throw colors or water at you. So clients have to be ready to get wet and to get powdered smeared at them. So it's really, it's not for everyone. I would like to say that.
Yes,
you really have to prepare your clients that this is what it is. And normally what I do, if we have someone who don't want to walk so much, who don't want to, you know, experience it in a really a hardcore way, then what we do is we hire terraces at certain homes. So we just take them on a terrace and we tell them, you just sit here and you can just see what's happening around. And people who are adventurous, then we go inside the temple, where you are with, you know, where you are at the place where people are celebrating it, and you are all wet and you are drenched. But that's the whole fun about it. That's the time when you get all your beautiful images. So it's all about setting expectations. You have to walk all out. There is not enough facilities for food or water. So it's a lot of just expectations, just setting expectation that this is really hardcore.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think
I just like to add one more part, if that's okay.
Yes.
I think
Harsh.
One of the beauties about the festival, in especially Bombay, is the fact that I think the police really man things very, very well. So one of the things we do advise people to do is, if you want to go and see that up close, right, because vehicular problem is there's congestion, the way they do, you know, one ways, etc., is of course, you know, staying in the South Precinct and coming down to Girgaon Chowpatty, and we also rent bikes. So, you know, bicycles, you know, in terms of movement becomes easy. You can see it, you can be part of it, you can see it from a distance. If you want to be part of the sea of humanity, you can, right? Just to be in close proximity to the tour leader is critical. So these are a few things that we say, but it's a, you know, it's a long festival. So, you know, depending on what part of the time of the festival they're coming in, you know, we can actually kind of organize stuff for them.
Thank you. Thanks, Harsh. And I'd like to thank everybody for participating today. We don't have time for Q&A today, but if you do have questions, please write to us and we'd be happy to answer whatever questions you have to the best of our ability. The idea was to give you all a little glimpse of the diverse festivals that we celebrate and how our guests can participate in that. Thank you, everybody, for today's session.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.